All right. Just give me a second. All right. Yeah. So everyone is seeing my screen and listening correctly? Okay. Hello everyone. I am Aileen from Argentina. I am aeronautic engineer, and during my studies, I was a fellow in a research group at the uni that analyzed and studied glacier dynamics in Los Glaciares National Park in Patagonia. So first I'm gonna just talk a little bit, just a few lines about what I do and what it is related, why it is related to COP. It was related to COP. Well, I use remote sensing, and after I finished my degree, I started working at the Air Force, where I'm now, and where I learned some more about remote sensing. Then I did some postgraduate studies about the topic, and currently I lead the research group, the Synthetic Aperture Radar Research Group at the uni in Buenos Aires. We monitor glacier dynamics in Patagonia, Argentina, superficial retreats, mass balance studies using remote sensing, some things like this. And so it was totally related with the pavilion. I have reached Amy actually for the first time regarding another scientific meeting I was interested in. And this proposal came out to go to COP and to attend to COP and to assist at the pavilion, at the ICCI pavilion. So I had some interviews with her before being selected, where I just told her about my experience and academic activities related to glacier monitoring. And during these meetings, I also met the other ECS selected and got to know a little bit about their research too. And Amy and Pam, who is the director and founder of ICCI, they explain us about the Cryosphere Pavilion inside COP, the focus, the activities involved in the pavilion, and also what were the most relevant points that will go on in COP30. And also they told us experiences from previous COPs and about the ECS activities, which were mainly 4 activities that we did. This was the pavilion, how it looked like. These main activities that ECS did was standing at the welcome desk, standing close to the tolerance, that are those columns that you can see there, aid and support inside events, and attending high-level meetings also. So regarding the first 2, so those are some pictures about of the pavilion. Regarding the first 2 activities that were at the welcome desk and close to the tolerance, the main objective was to communicate about the state of the cryosphere in a simple and clear way, so everyone could fully understand what is going on and what will happen under certain circumstances with ice and cryosphere in general. Also to show and explain the exhibits, the exhibits that were shown in the tolerance also. There you can see a closer picture. We also talk about our specific research and about ICCI results that were shown in the tolerance and in the annual reports, like the state of the cryosphere, that was here, was released during this event. And since we shared a pavilion with Chile, mostly the first question that people did was, why Iceland and Chile are together in a pavilion. So of course, everything had to do with ice. And also Chile and Iceland are co-chairs of AMI, Ambition of Melting Ice. So they were together. It was a shared pavilion. So anyway, being there and talking to the people that passed by was also a very important task. Not only because you were spreading the word, but also because it could happen that some negotiator, minister, for example, step by and you could try to talk to them and to engage negotiators and parties to ICCI. So we took turns. The fourth ECS, we took turns every day. So we had every day a different activity. We were 4 people for 4 different activities. And so we were usually at the venue from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Or sometimes a little bit more, because many side events at the pavilion took place until late. So regarding the support to side events, there was a special room, a special room for speakers and a place for attendees to sit. And our work was to open the side event, introduce the speakers and the moderator, be there as a resource person. And Chile had also many events and presentations, also sharing the space. And then the 4th volunteer had the chance to assist to plenaries and negotiations whenever it was possible to enter, because that depends on the party overflow budget check that you had, if you had access or not to those high-level events. So it was a very practical learning experience, also related to international relationships and negotiations. So this was, for example, AMI side events, a very interesting event to attend for us. So it's full of side events. The venue was really large, so it took a while to walk from one place to another. So we were all the time like checking the agenda for events. COP is really huge. I don't have many pictures, many good pictures to show, but just to give you an idea, it's full of people from all parts of the world. And besides being an environmental and political meeting, it's a huge, diverse cultural meeting. And that is a really interesting experience for someone like me, for example, that doesn't have so much access to distant cultures, geographically speaking, right? So some other activities that were going on the Blue Zone, we were provided both travel and accommodation. We shared an Airbnb, a very comfortable house nearby the venue. We could arrive there walking or by Uber. And also the rest of the staff of ICCI were hosted in the surroundings. We had dinner together in some occasions also. And I strongly recommend having an idea about tipping points, about the main topics that will be discussed at COP in general, and also about the websites and apps that are provided with the schedule, the agenda, and the map of the venue, about the city that you're going to stay. For example, Belém was super hot, so that was a condition for clothing arrangements. You can also visit the green zone, and you will realize how it differs a lot from the blue zone. So this was the team. We had Marcela's birthday at COP. So we had this nice picture from all of us, most of us. And yeah, there was an incident during that week, the last days, so we could not have some meetings that were scheduled because of the fire. You may already know about this. The pavilion was closed. So the last day it was, I mean, it was a problem on one side, but on the other side we would have the chance to attend many meetings and high-level meetings and plenaries because our pavilion was closed, so we had no activities there. And well, this is how huge plenaries are, for example. It was this was a picture of the final plenary. Marcela sure will explain later, will tell you later a little bit more about her experience talking in the final plenary. And well, finally, my first impression about COP was that it was so huge and with so many activities going on in parallel at the same time that I actually got it. I mean, how it works, what to look after, where to find what I needed, almost by the end of the week. So now I can say, okay, if I had a chance to go to a COP in the future, I will know a little bit more how to handle it because it's really huge. So thank you for listening, and of course, if you have any question, you can ask. And this is also my email and contact info. And yeah, I will stop sharing so Marcela can talk a little bit.
Thanks, Aileen.
Thank you. Oops. I cannot stop sharing. I'm sorry. I'm just okay. Here I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry.
That's fine. So Marcela, you can go if you want.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. You can see my screen?
Perfect.
Yeah, okay. So here, can you see the presentation?
Yes, it's perfect.
Yes, okay. So first I will present myself. My name is Marcelo. I'm a geologist and I'm a PhD student based here in Brazil. And my research is mainly geoscience. It's focused on Antarctic ice cores, glacial and paleoclimatology. And on top of that, I'm a member of the Association of Polar Eukaryote Science here in Brazil. And I will be talking a little bit about my research and its relationship with climate change studies and the COP. And so what's paleoclimatology? So paleoclimatology is the study of Earth's past climates using natural proxies, natural archives, such as marine and lake sediments, tree rings, and in my case, ice cores. And these records help us to reconstruct temperature, greenhouse gas levels, and precipitation, for example, over decades to millions of years ago. And understanding how different components of the climate system behave through time allows us to differentiate between natural climate variability and the human-driven climate change. So, but what is an ice core? So, ice core is mainly a frozen archive. So, the snow accumulates year after year after year and gradually compresses into ice under its own weight. And each layer traps tiny bubbles that preserve ancient samples of the atmosphere. And on top of that, the chemical composition of the snow, so the stable isotopes of hydrogen and oxygen, the stable water isotopes, reflects the temperature of at the time of the formation and precipitation of that snow. And why is it is important? So by measuring it helps us to understand a key information on the climate change, how it works. And by measuring the gases into the trapped air bubble, scientists can see how much carbon dioxide was in the air in the past. And the ratio of the water isotopes in the ice shows how warm or cold it was in the snow when the snow fell. So when you compare these two information, we can find a pattern. So when the CO2 goes up, the temperature goes up. And this helps us to understand the history of the climate in our planet, and it can help us to calibrate better the climate models, and also help us understand and differentiate between natural climate forces and the human-driven climate change. So we can see what the volcanic activity, how the Milankovitch cycles, how the sun activity, and how it's, for example, modes of climate variability, such as El Nino and La Nina, change the climate over the past few years. And we can see how of what's happening right now, it's human cause, and what is mainly natural. And other very interesting thing the ice cores provide us is the time that ice cap takes to form. So here I have some examples of Greenland and Antarctica ice cores, and we can see like some of the ice cap take hundreds of thousands of years to more than 1 million years to form, but we are losing the ice caps like in a record velocity and record speed. And this mass loss that we're losing, it impacts not only the nature and the ecosystem, but it also impacts like the human, the society over there. So I put some examples, such as the shrinking glaciers threaten water supply here in this region. And we also have like a loss of information, loss of records. And we have some initiatives such as the Ice Memory Foundation that tries to collect as much as sample that they can before it melts because of the climate change. So now I'll be talking a little bit about my COP experience. And what Eileen said, that we arrive at 8 a.m. and we sometimes stay there until 8 or 9 p.m. is true. These two pictures were taken the same day. And I will be complimenting what she said in her presentation. So first, it was a very unique experience to attend COP in my own country. I'm Brazilian. The whole city, so Belém, was fully immersed in the event, and even outside of the Blue Zone, COP was a constant topic in conversation and news coverage. And it was kind of inspiring to see people from all around the world to engage in Brazil culture, and also to witness how the event brought climate issues into the national headlines here in Brazil. And the Green Zone, that's an open space open to the general public, during the whole COP welcomed nearly 300,000 people. And so it shows how the COP spark interest beyond scientists and politicians and negotiators. And here are some examples of events that we had. So we had side events, high-level events. We had a cryosphere quiz in the pavilion. And one of the first things that I noticed in the COP was the importance of the language. And here, I'm not talking about fluency in English or Spanish or Portuguese. I'm talking about how to adapt the scientific language to context of international diplomatic event. So as researchers, we are used to use technical vocabulary in academic papers. And in some cases, we try to translate this knowledge to science communication and education, but in a more didactic tone. So this experience is valuable, but it's a little bit different from what I experienced in COP. So to actually engage with policymakers and decision makers, it's necessary to adjust the science to the logic of negotiation. So this involves things like balance, at least in my experience, it involved trying to balance the urgency of the cryosphere protection with evidence-based arguments, but without resorting to alarmism and considering like the specific interests of each country. So if we're speaking to someone from Bolivia, from Peru, I try to talk a little bit about glaciation of the Andes, for example. And second, it requires us try to ask them like a quick question. So why to invest in mitigation and adaptation in response to cryosphere melting? Even for countries that don't have cryosphere, such as Brazil. So we are still affected by economically, environmentally, and socially with the cryosphere loss. So trying to demonstrate these impacts as well, like long-term benefits for economy, nature, society, and culture, in preserving the cryosphere was kind of essential to try to advance this conversation and these negotiations. And as I already mentioned, like this event is massive, like in every sense, it's really huge. So I recommend planning, for those who are planning to attend, I recommend always check like the schedule in advance and try to organize your time, considering the time that it takes to walk from the pavilion to a meeting room or from one meeting room to another, because it's really huge. And it's also important to pay attention in the TV screens that were in the venue, because many meetings, negotiations, and press briefings, they are subject to like last minute schedule changes. And all of this can feel a little bit overwhelming and intimidating, I guess. But for those who are interested in attending and participating in a COP, I don't want to discourage you. There's a great deal of support and many resources available even before the event begins. So as Eileen mentioned, we had a couple of meetings with ICCI, so we can introduce ourselves, we talk about our research, and we actually practice a little bit how to speak to negotiations beforehand. And we become a little bit more familiar with the structure of the pavilion and about the work that we're going to do there. But there's other channels to help to COP preparation that helped a lot. So the Rio constituency organized webinars ahead of the event that highlight like key issues for the COP edition, and it provides like an overview of the main negotiation discussion points, and as well as participation tips. More specific for ECR and ECS, there is a WhatsApp group for Ringo ECRs. So in this group, the participants exchange questions, tips, key informations before, during, and even after the event. And this goes from bureaucratic issues, for advice, for tip advice, daily discussions, and daily negotiations outcomes. And the ECRs also held in-person meetings during COP. As well, there was 3 Ask Me Anything events before COP. So it helped a lot. They are recorded, so you can watch anytime you want. And this helps. So if you're planning to go to a COP, I highly recommend checking all of this out. And also there's a UNFCCC Observer Handbook that I checked as well. They help a little bit because it provides like a clear information about COP procedure and agenda items. So if you are going to attend, I highly recommend checking this as well. And as well, reading the state of the cryosphere, as Ali mentioned before, so it can help us to explain better the information to all the public that was attended the Cryosphere Pavilion. And it's also available online. And on the final day of the event, I had the honor of speaking on behalf of the Ringo constituency during the closing plenaries. In the statement, we emphasized like the need for greater transparency from governments and negotiators, including like a clear and accessible sharing of decisions and agreements, which is like an essential condition to ensure like meaningful participation from researchers and independent negotiations. And one thing that was also said in the statement was the importance of not only the academic knowledge, such as the IPCC reports, but also it is important to incorporate the knowledge of indigenous people and local communities that are the front line of the climate impacts, and that they provide like a central role in building a more just and effective response for the climate change. And also, I invite you to read like the full article that I wrote about my participation in COP in Polos magazine. That is a magazine here, science communication magazine here from Apex, Brazil. We also feature an interview with the Professor Tiago Monteiro that also worked in Pavilion, in the Cryosphere Pavilion during COP. We have a recorded meeting that we made, interview that we made at the Cryosphere Pavilion that is on our Instagram page. It's in Portuguese, unfortunately, but so the article, I think you guys can, if you're interested, can translate it. And the interview, I think the Instagram have like automatic subtitles. So if you guys are interested, I encourage you to read that. And also Fabian, that was another ICS that worked in the Pavilion, also published an article about his opinions and reflection on COP. So I encourage you guys to check that out as well. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you guys have any question, I'm open to. You can send me an email.
Thank you very much, Marcela. Okay, so I would like to ask if Rafaela, Alessandro, or Karina have some questions to ask Marcela and Aileen to better understand how it works, or if you have some curiosity. Because I think the next round of application for the next COP will open quite soon. Somehow we are already in April, so I expect it to come yeah, anytime soon. Perhaps James can say something also about that.
It's better.
It changes the perspective, yeah.
Yeah, rather than seeing my chest. Great to see you both. Thanks for the great presentations, and thank you again for the brilliant work you did at the COP. I think it was a difficult one for all of us who went, I think. So really appreciate your efforts. I guess to kick off a question, I wonder how you, as individuals, kind of perceive the outcomes of the COP. Like, did they live up to what you expected in advance? Did they exceed it? Did they not exceed it? And did your experience there change perhaps what you were expecting throughout the week as you got more understanding of how the progress happens and the difficulties that can come in throughout the COP negotiations?
I can. Aileen, do you want to start again?
Yeah, I just it was a little bit confusing for me what was going on regarding all tipping points that were discussed at COP, like if they were reaching the point or not, if countries were agreeing to these statements or not. It was like because some of the high level meetings were in closed door, so we could not attend. Even observers could not attend, and so we were always like checking what was going on in the media, and also in the links and all the resources that Marcela had shown before that were with the last news about what was going on, and so we heard rumors from one side, and on the other side we were reading like those last reports. So it was that part for me was a little bit confusing. What were the negotiations about and the results of the negotiations themselves? Yeah, Marcela, I don't know if you want to start.
I think that part of the meetings and discussions in closed door, it took me a little bit of surprise, I guess. I thought it would be a little more open to anybody, actually. And other thing that surprised me, not in a very good way, it was how many people from the oil industry were there. So besides like the Brazilian, the Brazilian party, like the people from the oil industry were bigger than any other country. So it took me a little bit of surprise. And there's such very interesting outcomes. As I said, like as a Brazilian, it was interesting to see COP here. So we have like a land demarcation for indigenous people here in Brazil, but it felt a little bit, it's not enough actually. And like the final papers that like the path of the way and the mutirão, when we saw like the outcome of it, it was like I was expecting a little bit more and more like incisive actually about like the transition away from fossil fuels. And when I try to not let that discourage me as a scientist to see, oh, we're trying to do this, everything, and they have so much power actually. And I try to not let this discourage me. And I think like the event they're going to be held in Colombia here, I think it's April, I guess now, about that. So I try to use this as like something to encourage me even more, not like to let down. But it was very nice to see how much people were engaged in that. So when Uber driver, taxi driver, everyone there were talking about it. So as a Brazilian, it was really interesting to see that. So families and people that never asked me about climate change were asking about that. And even today, sometimes they ask me about that as well. So it is nice to see how these events also like spread awareness in the social communities as well. Yes.
Thanks. Alessandro, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Is quite the general. Do you feel like maybe also for you, Flo and James, that the closed door negotiations are becoming more close over time? In a sense, they were maybe more open a few years ago, and then now, or it's always the same, or depends on where, or I don't know. Can you
Well,
tell?
I mean, I can say something briefly and let James continue on that. But well, I've been attending the last 5 COPs. Very much it depends where it happens. And it depends very much on how the host country decides to lead the discussion. Because, for example, Brazil is not a dictator. It's not like in Egypt or other countries like that. And so there effectively was the I don't know, the first COP out of the 5 I attended that has been so secret, and it was a diplomatic strategy somehow that didn't work, but it was a diplomatic strategy. And so as we are used to gather information in the corridors, this time nothing filtered out. Actually, it was very complicated because usually we have our little game of James Bonds going on in the corridors and trying to chase after some precious indications and to put some keywords in the right places. But yeah, so that was my feeling. So James, you can say.
Yeah, add on to that. Thanks, Flo. You're right. This was unusual. A lot of the discussions do normally go behind closed doors, but later in the second week of the COP, whereas this COP was unusual in that at least part of the negotiations went behind closed doors basically straight away. So around the first few days of the COP, there's something called the action agenda, which is where you countries agree on what they're discussing at the COP. And often what you get into is an agenda fight where some countries want one thing and others don't, and then that ends up delaying everything else for often several days. So discussions can't even begin until that is agreed. And so there were four issues which rose up this last COP, and two of them was on one about finance, so climate finance, and the second one was about having some sort of mechanism to review what countries are doing to keep 1.5 degrees within reach. And the Brazilian presidency were quite slick in terms of saying, right, we don't want to have this argument delay everything else for a couple of days. So what we'll do is we'll take this and wrap it into a package and take that behind closed doors. And it is that package of measures which then became the Mutirão decision, so the cover decision. But all of that was negotiated behind closed doors, away from observers, and even away from some of the heads of delegations of countries as well. So it was quite exclusive. So they were very slick in terms of how they ran the COP, but it wasn't the most inclusive. And from that perspective, even though they did do very well in terms of bringing in more indigenous people's voices, for example.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, the thing is, COPs have different levels. You have like the civil society levels, and it's definitely more a kind of market for discussions and exchanging solutions and best practices and these kind of things. And then you have the second level, which is our level as observers, basically. And then you have the third level, which is the one for the parties that are negotiating in the closed door. So all these levels, sometimes they intersect in the blue zone at different moments of the COPs, at different levels. Sometimes it's just friendly, sometimes it's really strategic, sometimes they also want to implement some national local solution or these kind of things. And sometimes it's also to create alliance between the different countries. So there are different levels, different things that comes together. So it's a huge forum somehow. And of course there is the business that is always in the background. So I mean that's why it's well, I mean, you can have different lecture of this kind of meeting, but I totally understand that for people that step in the first time there, it's very overwhelming because if you do not document yourself a little bit before about what is at stake for the negotiations or what is the COP framework and these kind of things, a lot of vocabulary, it's a bit chaotic and a bit obscure, I would say, and for early career they have to put everything together, right? I mean the science they have, how they can transfer it, but also have to grab new science around and also try to retransfer it as well and get some policy and try to put the science into the policy and this kind of thing. So it's a lot of work. And I think that's a challenge. I think that's why it's interesting experience to do anyway. I think it's kind of unique, right?
Yeah, I'd say that it as a COP, sort of one of the I've been to several COPs now, and I'd say that it takes probably a good COP to get used to going to a COP. And so I think our ECS do a brilliant job of orienting themselves very quickly and kind of establishing their roots and really delivering on results, which was brilliant to see. And I think you probably agree with me that by the end of your week at the COP, you're probably just about got used to how everything was working. So it means that next COP you go to, it will be easier for you, for sure.
Yeah, sure. It's that. Mm-hmm.
But also, I think what I found while coming back in Trieste, it's a bit like what Marcela was saying, that people then are eager to understand how it works, what's going on in the COP, because what they see is only what the news are showing at the TV, and most of the time there are pictures of the plenaries in the negotiation. And they have no idea that it's kind of a universal exhibition where everyone can talk about anything there. So it's a totally different ecosystem, and I think it's. I mean, what I find personally interesting is like after when you come back here, a lot of people ask you to deliver like what's going on, how does it work, how can I have access to it? And, I think this is what you experience, right? I mean, both. Okay. Do you have any other questions for Marcela and Aileen about how it works or whatever. James, is the next round of applications opening soon, or do you know?
A bit later this year, so we normally send out a call around kind of July time.
Okay.
Applications to be open, possibly a bit early, perhaps June. The way that will come out, it will advertise on CryoList and also on our website. If you sign up to our Cryosphere capsules, we'll have a weekly digest of news like this, opportunities that come up as well. So sign up to that on icci.net.
And we usually also forward these applications also to through the instant mailing list, and we definitely advertise the SCAR community about the opportunities. Also, with Instant, we tried last year to bring early career scientists along with me, but I did that very last moment and somehow failed in organizing. But I will be opening something soon again through Instant to bring someone along with me. If I'm the one going, but at least there will be someone going.
That's great.
So yeah, I will try to do that like before that moment. So like probably before going to the Antarctic Treaty meeting in a couple of weeks or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because the next COP will be in Turkey, and it's actually quite an interesting one because for the first time ever, we've got this split presidency where Turkey will host it and Australia will be running the negotiations. And so it'll be interesting to see how this works in practice, what are the tensions there, and what can you deliver in this sort of format. And that happened because they couldn't agree on who wanted to host it. So they both wanted it too much that they couldn't compromise, and it ended up being both of them.
Very good. Any last thoughts, Aileen or Marcela, that you want to share? Also, because this will be uploaded on the Instant channel, so it will be seen by other people. So
Actually, like I really highly recommend anyone that's interested to apply to go into COP. It was a very unique experience, and I met a lot of different like scientists and journalists and negotiators there. It was like and I don't know any other like place that will give me a opportunity such as that. And so I highly recommend anybody that is saying like the vocabulary is very hard. Actually, we take a long of time to get used to it, but don't let this discourage you. It's yeah, just go. It's really
Yeah, and also it's also challenging for scientists, for example, because at least me, I was really used to talk about my work in a scientific way, let's say. I mean, I'm used to attend other kind of meetings, but not to talk about this to general public. So you really had to change the way you spread the word. I mean, the way you explain things, and it was also amazing to see how many people were like surprised about what was going on, what is going on with ice. I mean, we had this tolerance with graphs and I don't know what will happen if we maintain this way of living to 2 degrees, and how many cities will be flooded and things like that, and people were really shocked. So it was also an interesting opportunity to talk about that with parties and not just general public, but from time to time you had the chance to meet some negotiator to talk about this. And it was like we were always looking for that and looking at the budgets. And also it was really interesting to see alliances between countries in these plenaries. Like, for example, what happened with many Latin American countries, the Netherlands, and it was really nice to see that coalition for transitioning away from fossil fuels. So you see like some kind of political activism related to environment that, for example, in my case in Argentina, we are currently not seeing that much at all. because that depends on the governments of each country. So it was like also like some kind of hoping for people like us that are always working for a better world, a cliche, but yeah, some things like that. Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. And I don't know if you will have the opportunities to attend another COPs, like also not as through the Cryosphere Pavilion, but other pavilions or other experiences anyway. But so I think it's a very unique experience. So I really encourage anyone that wants to apply to really apply, because it's really worth it. Actually, it's like what's behind, and not why we are doing science, because there are many reasons why we do science, but this is one of the reasons why we do science. So it's important to have it well in mind, basically. Okay, so thank you, Marcela and Aileen, once again
Thank you.
for the presentation, and
Thank you.
well, I hope
I've
to see you
sent
soon.
only a note. Okay, a suggestion.
Oh, okay. But you can speak up if you want.
Oh, I'm not so easy with English, so I'm
Oh,
out of work. So, but I have found a very interesting letter from Francisco Pope, just to give a strong input on these climatic themes. So I have read the letter very quickly, and I have found a change in mentality, really a change in mentality, and I hope people could have an improve in this. So thank you. We will
thanks,
see
Rafaela.
later.
Yeah, let's keep the hope high.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much to everyone that attending, and hope to anyway meet you very very soon, anytime, actually. And have a nice day where you are, basically.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks
Hope to see
again.
you
Bye.
soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay.